It's Financial Smarts Network. Now, here's Andrew.
Good evening and welcome once again, folks. It is Tuesday evening, another episode of Financial Smarts Network. It is Valentine's week. If you haven't looked at your calendar, Valentine's is coming up Friday. Tuesday evening here, you've got a few days to prepare, gentlemen, and perhaps even you ladies out there. With me in the studio tonight is a special guest, my friend Monica Matthews, radio personality and the host of Life, Love, and Liberty on WSB and online.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, always good to have you in here.
Appreciate it.
Valentine's
it's a big week for people.
It is, and I figured who better to have it in the studio here
thanks.
to discuss relationships, Valentine's, and what we should do, or maybe what we shouldn't do.
Yeah, right? We do a lot of that too. Yeah, every day can be Valentine's Day. And I know a lot of dudes are like, why do I have to subscribe? There's like this big boycott against the big Hallmark holiday season. Why do I have to do Valentine's Day? I'm like, well, you don't have to, but depending upon where you want to sleep.
See, what I was going to say, my take is that Valentine's, and I'm probably going to get bashed for this, but Valentine's is overrated because you should really love your significant other. True. And do something the entire year, maybe not every day, but you know where I'm going with this, right?
I do. You should. You should do something every day, but I see it as an opportunity because here's the thing. If a couple decides that the day is overrated, that's fine. Yeah. But if one of you is kind of like, well, everyone else got roses, or the whole comparison thing, right? Yeah. And no matter how hard you try to stave that off, it's just a part of being human. So I think you're going to have to decide as a couple how important is the holiday to you. Mm-hmm. If you're not a couple, it's a great time, especially, I raised my daughter by myself as a widow. Yeah. And Valentine's Day was always fun for us. Like, we made it about our love for each other, mother and daughter. So, or maybe you don't have children and you don't have a significant other, but you have elderly parents who are maybe widowed or widowers, right? Of course. Just to stop in even to like an assisted living facility just makes their day because no one thinks about them during these holidays. So when you put it in that perspective, Andrew, it's like people are like, oh, yeah, okay. So I'm not just bucking the system of, Hallmark holidays, but there can actually be some real purpose around the holiday.
No, there is, and that's one of the things I've kind of wanted to ask you because, of course, I think us as men might view things in life, just, generally speaking, a little bit different sometimes than women, especially when it comes to... Thanks.
That's why you're from Mars and I'm apparently a Venus. So.
I guess so, right?
Okay, yeah.
But, we often view things a little bit differently, and especially when it comes around to holidays such as Valentine's. Yeah. Do we have, are there do's and don'ts, right? We mentioned, your daughter, like you said, growing up as a single mom. We've all have parents if they're still alive. So, for me, it's just maybe call me a little bit old-fashioned, but, I take care of my wife, but I also think about mom, too, right?
Yeah, of course.
Even though she's remarried.
Because you're a good Greek boy.
Yeah, I guess you can call it that, except when she texts me and she says,
the Greek mommy guilt stuff.
I need something, and I'm like, I'm at the office working, it's tax season.
Right.
She's like, well, can you do it, in an hour? I'm like, an hour.
Get back to me on Valentine's Day.
Exactly. So, but, I want our viewers to kind of maybe give some thought to things that they haven't thought about before, maybe something different. It's 2020, right? Yeah. Maybe do we change the buck, and pass it along in a different way? So if you're married, what, for Valentine's is Friday also this year, this week. So sometimes people think, oh man, this restaurant's gonna be busy. It's gonna be a nightmare out there. Do we do something, casual at home? Do we go out? So what, you're the relationship expert in a sense. So what are you saying that we should be focusing on this year to kind of make it still special without really kind of, going overboard?
Yeah, so first let me say, if you have not booked a reservation by now,
you're in trouble.
You're in deep trouble. So, especially if you live in a metropolitan area, like forget about it.
Atlanta, Miami, New York, Chicago.
Like my daughter, so we're in Atlanta, and my daughter tried to make reservations in D.C. because she and her boyfriend will be in D.C. for a festival over the weekend. And she's like, Mom, we can't find anything. And this was a month ago. So people are planning. Also, Andrew, it's really important for people to realize that we live in a day and age where nothing, traditions are kind of being shirked, if you will. Mm-hmm. And for young couples, it's a really cool opportunity to create your own traditions. Yeah. As single mothers, I always say, create your own traditions with your kids. Single dads, very important. This is a great time for daddies to step up to the plate. Yes. Take their daughters out for a date, especially if you are a divorced father. These are things that your kids don't ever forget, these experiences, right? But as for couples, I think, I first messaged you and I was like, rule number one is that there aren't any, right? This is between you and your significant other. So there aren't any rules. It plays into paying attention to the person you're with. And something I've been talking a lot about on my podcast lately is the rules of engagement, where the book, The 5 Love Languages, is concerned. Great book, highly recommend it. And you've got acts of service. For some people, Valentine's Day doesn't really mean anything in terms of going out, right? And buying them something, but maybe it's more, maybe it's words of affirmation is their particular love language. And so maybe buy the book together, sit down and go through it, and get to know your person in a different light. What you begin to realize through that time of study is that you realize things about yourself that you didn't even know, right? Things that are really have just kind of maybe resided latently. And then you're like, oh, wow, that is really important to me. And this is why I do it for you. Because it's really my number one love language is how we normally convey our love language to someone else, right? So in the context of Valentine's Day, in order to serve the need of the person instead of the Hallmark holiday, right? And making that person feel special, is you taking the time to know that person. And to, the Bible says, husbands, live with your wives according to knowledge. And how many men do you know, probably yourself included, to some extent, that's like, I can't figure women out. I have no idea what this woman wants.
I was going to say, that's it. I was just kind of waiting to make a point as to, you're talking about the love language, right? And Valentine's, but it should be every day like that. But, how many of us in relationships who've been in relationships a long time, right? In the beginning, we're all still trying to find our way as a couple,
right.
The love and this and that, the romance, the sex, all that. But, if you're in a relationship, you're married, let's just say it's been 10, 15, 20 years, however long, do we really truly know our spouse's, love language? Do we really, a lot of times it's, you hear guys on, and let's just say, guys on our end, right? It's just, oh, I went and, bought her this or I bought her that. And then you take it and there's like no wow factor.
Right.
Because that's not really what she...
Yeah, that's not her love language.
Yeah, exactly.
I just actually went through some ministry time with a lady who was kind of going through a divorce because they're kind of on the fence right now about it. But she was upset because her husband buys her these exorbitant, expensive purses, accessories, things and stuff. And she's like, I don't care about that stuff. I just want his attention. And then every time he upsets me, he buys me something and I hate it. And I was like, whoa, wait. She feels like he's trying to buy his way out of something.
Gotcha.
And or into something.
I guess every time there's an argument, for example, he'll go out and buy something.
Right. But my point to her was, hold on. And that's why I decided to really hunker down and study the 5 love languages again. And I recommend it to everyone because that's his love language. He's not trying to manipulate her with a gift. And a lot of times women feel like you're just after the sex, even wives. I know if he buys me something, if he takes me to a nice dinner, I'm going to have to put out later. And as a widow of 20 years, I'm like, shut up. Like, just say thank you. It's like, I have no sympathy for women who are married, who have like, a warm bed partner.
There's a lot of women who are sex starved in life. And,
I just wrote a blog on that, actually.
I listened to one of your podcasts.
Yep,
about sex with your...
We're not sex crazed. We're sex starved.
Yeah.
And really, we're intimacy starved. Correct. And Valentine's Day is a fantastic opportunity to regain the ground that you've lost. Whether you are forging through new ground with someone, or you've been married for 20, 30 years, and it's like, here we go again. It's just another holiday. This can be a real opportunity. It's a new year, right? It's a new year. It's a new time to forge and cultivate new land so that you can develop a new crop in your life, whether it's in your finances, which is what you speak to, or your personal life with your kids, in your business. And honestly, our businesses are only as fruitful, I personally believe, as our personal lives. So,
that's very true. I deal with all walks of life as far as clients, from small businesses to individuals, and usually you can I see in my world dealing with finances or taxes, accounting, whatever the case might be, it's just overall, if it's just there's certain situations you see certain people when their personal life is a mess, everything is, and it affects their business if they're self-employed, and vice versa, right? So it's just unfortunate, but we just get suckered into the system, so to speak, and then it translates into, affecting our love life at home with our spouse, friend, girlfriend, whatever your relationship is. But one thing I want to ask you, you mentioned kids, your daughter and kids, obviously parents who have kids, whether they're married or divorced parents. Walk me through this. If it's Valentine's just 3 days from now, you're married, you've got children, is the focus of Valentine's, should the focus of Valentine's, I should say, be amongst the adults, meaning the husband and the wife? Do you put any focus on the kids and trying to teach them some, whether you buy them a gift or take them out to help, say if you have a son, the dad takes him out to buy something for mom to teach them values, right? Is this an opportunity for us? I think as a society we've gotten far gone from values that we used to have.
Oh, right.
And so I'm just curious, because we know my wife and I don't have kids. We have a niece. And whenever I see her, of course, I'm always taking her out, spoiling her.
Yeah.
I'm the best uncle in the world, right? Because I buy her something.
You're the best Theo ever.
Yeah, exactly. But but it's Valentine's. So what do we do if, for those who have kids? Is it appropriate to, do something with your kids, for your kids? Where do we go?
All the above. So with my daughter, a great opportunity that we always seized was, and you parents out there will know what I'm talking about, because we gave them away. You'd give away the little, fold over notes that you hand write with the, they've already got the hearts. You have all different types of Disney characters. You've got boy-centric type Valentine's Day things and girls and vice versa. And in this day and age, probably everything in between. And so you fill those out and hand them out to your little friends. It's a good way for your kids to get used to giving to others, to acknowledging the uniqueness of others. I was about to say special, but I like unique is a little bit better. I think in this day and age, things tend to get convoluted and just everything's a giant pot of sameness, right? We see that in politics. I talk about politics a lot on my show.
You do, yeah.
One thing that I like to unearth with life, love, and liberty, setting the captives free from old ideologies and ways of thinking, and not necessarily grabbing for the new ways of thinking that don't serve us. And one of the things that I think do not serve our children is everyone needing to be the same. I think it's important that we teach them that each one of their little classmates is unique, and one way you can celebrate that is by identifying their different classmates so that they're paying attention to them, and then give them a little Valentine's, something that's, representative of who that little kid is. Maybe that kid's into baseball or whatever. It's a lot of effort, but it's worth the effort, because if you're not teaching them and seizing the opportunities even during national holidays, someone else is teaching them, whether it's cartoons, television, video games, whatnot. Absolutely appropriate. So I think it's appropriate to incorporate the entire family, from your kids, your dog. A lot of people that's what people do. Everyone's very animal centric. And bring Fido into the equation. Some dog treats, whatever. Your teachers, your ministers, your pastors, maybe a homeless person. I mean, just kind of extending the breadth of the expression of love. Also, it's a great opportunity to sit down with your kids and talk about St. Valentine, right?
Hold your thought right there, Monica. We're going to take a very quick break, and we will be right back to continue on about St. Valentine.
Monica Matthews, radio host, author, speaker, and musician, is a proud contributor and supporter of Financial Smarts Network. Monica is the host of the popular podcast Monica Matthews, Life, Love, and Liberty, and hosts the Monica Matthews Show on WSB Radio in Atlanta, Georgia. Monica is a passionate voice for freedom from bondage of every kind, and holds that God's first purpose is always people, and His first priority is always freedom. For more information, find out more at monicamatthews.com.
Hey, welcome back. Back on set here with Monica. We were about to start teaching your kids, or having a discussion about St. Valentine, right?
Absolutely.
Versus Uncle Sam. Versus Santa.
You didn't teach about Uncle Sam, too.
Oh, no.
Because if they understand more about taxes, then they'll have more money to spend on their loved ones in the future.
Hey, that could very well work too.
They need you for. So give your kids a business card of Andrew Poulos.
Call the tax man.
Exactly.
Call me, not Uncle Sam.
We really love him.
Not Uncle Sam.
Right.
but anyway.
So, but yes, it's important to, listen, I like to kind of, in this day and age of your kids have access to so much information everywhere, right? And so, but parents should be in charge of being the first person to assault your children's ears with information.
And it seems like none of that's happening these days.
It doesn't. Parents are not, because you know why, Andrew? Because I think parents are still behind the times. Parents don't realize that their kids really are subjected in every possible way on every medium, whether it's commercials. I don't care how much you've got them hunkered down outside of social media. They have friends. Their friends are not shielded. They're not guarded from those things. And so it's important for you to be the first point of information. You should be a walking encyclopedia for your child. You just should. And especially around areas of love and things that foster relationships, because in the end, you know, that's really all this is about. Yeah. It's fostering relationship with your money, relationship with your loved ones, with yourself, beginning with yourself, right? So when we're admonished, you know, commanded, you know, to love God with all your whole soul and mind and your neighbor as yourself, people are like, oh, I'm just going to give, and it's all about other people. And I'm like, that is such bull. It is about you first. If you understand who you are as a person, how uniquely awesome and wonderfully made you are, then that is what you reflect to the world around you, and particularly our little people.
Well, and to that point, I always say, like with finances, for example, right? Growing up, our generation was different times. We didn't have technology, we didn't have social media, the internet, or any of that stuff. And for example, I grew up with the mom being a widow, and so she did the best she could, and it was the old-fashioned sit at the kitchen table, pay the bills, write the checks. You actually got to visualize your parents or your mom or your father, you know, paying bills, understanding. So, you know, if you're learning a few things, she'd always just say, you got to balance a checkbook. You got to write here who you're paying, how much, and keep balance so you'll know if you really have money to pay the next bill.
That's right.
You know, and I think oftentimes, even, you know, transcending into relationships, it's kids, although they may be young, tend to really grasp and visualize and also hear what we do at home as adults and relationships and arguments and fights or whatnot, but also the love, right? If they don't see that, you know, how are they going to learn the right values?
Yeah, and part of loving is disagreeing.
Yeah.
It just is. It's okay. It is okay to disagree. It is necessary for your children to see you fail and to fail well. There's a difference. And whenever you start trying to hide your shortcomings or you exacerbate the shortcomings of your loved one, they're sponges. They pick up on all of that. And so it's mandatory really for them to see you celebrate each other when things are going well and to still celebrate each other when things aren't going so well. But Valentine's Day is kind of a day, you know, to create new memories for these little people and to make it special and to make it fun. It shouldn't be arduous. I also tell people, Andrew, that our kids, they learn, especially sons, learn how to love a woman based on how they see their father love their mother. Because the fathers really do set the barometer of the home. So a lot of people have forgotten that because we live in the day and age of I am woman and I can do anything you can do and I'm probably going to do it better, which I personally do not subscribe to. And I do not, I'm fine being an equal, but in some ways, but in other ways, you know, a man's still a man, I'm still a woman, and I want my daughter to see that. And that's what she's carried out into the world. And so, you know, but to love each other, it's also important to realize that we do love each other differently. We do speak different languages. Yeah. And so it's, you know, it's important. But I was also going to tell you about this awesome thing called, and this is for people whether you're just getting to know someone.
I heard one of your podcasts. I'm curious as to what I'm about to, what's about to come out of your mouth.
This is so good. But my daughter was telling me about how they've got date night in a box, right?
Date night in a box.
Date night in a box.
Oh, God.
And so for you guys who have just started dating.
Let me drink my water
exactly.
before you
I know, you might need something stronger for this one. But the intimacy deck card game. Okay, this is good for people who are just getting to know each other. It affords you the ability of asking questions that you might not think to ask.
Okay.
but you have to make an agreement at the outset of this game.
Are these cards like sexual
cards?
Deck
of no. It probably does encompass sexual questions as well, but it's kind of, probably everything from your favorite color, what kind of food do you like, what do you think about, what do you think about the Civil War? Things that are really important, especially in this day and age. So are you, should Texas secede? Like, where are you? And you're thinking without it having to be so inflammatory or interrogative, right? Because a lot of people feel like they're being interrogated on a date, even and especially on Valentine's Day. So it's like, this is just a fun, disarming way for people who are just getting to know each other to really get to know the other person. I will say this, if you're playing this game and you've been together for a while, it's a way to rekindle and to get to know someone even deeper, right?
I was going to ask, because there's a lot of folks out there who have been, whether they're married or dating, but these days it's common to hear people have been in a relationship dating for 3, 5, 7 years before they ever get married. So I was going to say, what should the focus be, for couples who have been in a relationship a while, and kind of, it gets mundane, right? You go home from work, you're both tired, and the same old,
Date night in a box. So this is like a date at home kit, and it's date night in a box. And so it gives you everything from menus from chefs that have prepared, giving you ideas.
Interesting.
You can also, a lot of people do what they're calling chefing. So you actually hire a chef to come to the house and cook for you.
I could use that.
Right?
I'm sure my wife would love that.
Totally down with that.
Oh, I'm sure my wife would be too.
And it's not as expensive as you think it will be.
Really?
And by the time you deal with a crowd, valet parking,
Friday night,
your car
Valentine's,
could be carjacked in Atlanta valet parking. There's any number of things that could happen. So the kids, send the kids either to bed, preferably with like grandma, grandpa, or with a babysitter.
Yeah, of course.
But it's really not as expensive to incorporate someone. And I suggest doing that outside of Valentine's Day, to give your wife a break, to give your husband a break. Maybe the wife doesn't enjoy cooking, but you want the opportunity to sit down and spoil each other. This is a great day to spoil each other. A lot of people, after they've been dating for a while, forget that people should reserve the right to change. We don't like change, and we want people to stay the way they are.
Yeah,
but the truth is, I'm coming up on 50. I'm not the same woman I was when I was widowed at 28.
No.
I'm not the same woman I was 5 years ago.
None of us are.
Right.
I'm right behind you.
And hopefully we're
50.
evolving.
Of course.
Okay?
You're older, you're wiser hopefully.
Hopefully.
Things change, the body changes, the brain changes, everything changes.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up. The body changes. So part of this date night in a box is you've got activities, whether it's a little scavenger hunt around the house or you do like a murder mystery. Some of them are like Roaring Twenties themed, which is kind of cool coming into this decade. So you can dress up. You can, whatever the date night box calls for, you can be as into it as you want to be. I can imagine most men might feel a little silly doing something like this, but so what? You're not doing it in public. You're by yourselves.
True.
This is someone you should be safe with as it is. So you share finances, bodies, what the heck? Share a date night box, for God's sake. So
That's interesting.
and listen, this is kind of sad. It comes with a conversation starter. So imagine that. You've been with someone for 5 years and you're like,
Conversation
what do we
starter.
talk about? Right? And here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen, if you're married and you have children, the kids are off limits on Valentine. You do not talk about them if you're out to dinner. When it comes to your designated time, no babysitter talk, no tuition talk, no cheerleading, nothing about the kids.
Well, I think that's important too outside of Valentine's Day, right? As a couple, you're together. If you say once a month you're going out for a date night, call it.
Yeah.
Then it's got to be you and me time versus the kids or the grandkids or whatever the situation is, right? At some point, we got to cut away from work and the daily life, or just the rigmarole of being stressed out. But now, here's my thing, and I think we discussed this in talking back and forth and texting. But Valentine's Day, right? It's often associated Valentine's Day. I've got to treat her right, do this, do that, get a little sex involved.
Right.
Is that overrated in 2020, or is that something that women still, of course, and men are still looking for in Valentine's to make it a special evening?
Absolutely. So in Psychology Today, I just cited and did an entire series on this particular article that came out that said sex is dead. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty declarative statement. Like,
we're in trouble as a society.
Right? Well, so here's what happens. Because of all the equality speak, what women are realizing on their counselors' couches and whenever they come to me in ministry sessions, they're saying, I don't have a man anymore. I feel like I have a child, or he's just weak, or he's, I just don't respect him. I don't desire him. He's not desirable anymore because he has been, by society standard and by her, you have been emasculated to a certain point, to the point during the Me Too movement, some great things came out of that because that needed to be revealed about how women were being treated. Some very detrimental things have come out of that as well. And so one of those detriments and one of those casualties has been intimacy in the bedroom. And what you're finding is that men can't perform. They don't know who they are. And what they found in this study is that men and women still want to be taken. Women want to be taken. They don't want you to ask for permission. They don't want a polite guy in the bedroom, contrary to...
So basically an alpha male.
They want an alpha male, and they want a man who knows what he wants, and he wants you. And they don't want you to tip. Now, granted, I'm not talking about people, your first date for Valentine's Day. Like, I was on your side, man. Like, take us slow. It's all your role. But we're talking about...
You're in a relationship.
In relationships, right. And you're kind of feeling a little lackluster. Another huge area that I feel like people need to contend with before they ever get to Valentine's Day. Check your heart for any unforgiveness toward the other person, because one of the reasons why you feel so bored at dinner, or you're lamenting the fact that you have to do something, I can't tell you how many times in holidays I've spent in the card section for someone in my family in particular. And, they're all like all these, you're the most wonderful X, Y, and Z in the world. You've done this, you've sacrificed so much. And I'm like, oh my God, that does not even remotely apply to my relationship at all. I'm like, this is such a fraud. I can't even think about buying this card. And people feel that way on Valentine's Day, where they're like, this is not my wife, this is not my husband, this is not what they do for me at all. But just to get over with, they'll just sign it and toss it off. But I would say the reason why people get to the point of boredom and they're no longer in wonder with their spouse is because somewhere along the way there's been an offense that they have not yet dealt with. And a lot of times it comes from finances. It comes from something that you've said that was, you took it in as an offense and you never dealt with it. So a great place to start is to make a gratitude list, as hard as that may be, regarding the other person. You don't have to share it with the other person, right? But this is a good way to kind of like, this is the pregame, because some people need a pregame. You need a primer in order to get to that space of being excited about doing something for and with another person that you call yours, and really go over the gratitude list and get honest.
Well, that's why I said in the beginning, is Valentine's, not to, because I know if I said it as a male, I might get bashed as Valentine's overrated, but not in that sense, from the context of, it's just keeping the newness there, that one day that's supposed to be a little more special than, per se, any other day, and kind of, getting that spark back, because we lose that. I mean, it's just in daily life. I mean, that's just life, right? But trying to figure out how we go about to kind of rekindle that fire, figure out what's wrong in our relationships. A lot of people have issues, and we'll discuss in another segment with you, finances and relationships. I mean, the statistics and the studies of people getting divorced and money having to be the central issue is alarming in our country. But overall, it's just, I wanted to have this segment, for us to discuss, like, what really should Valentine's Day be? If you're a couple, you're new, as a new couple, you're dating someone you're new, you're obviously trying to find a spark, trying to figure out what, how to click and whether you have chemistry, but particularly for folks who have been around a long time, people like you who have, grown children, or young children for that matter.
Yeah, I do something for my daughter for Valentine's Day, and she's 23. And I I actually have someone in my life now, so I'm looking forward to, interacting and celebrating, this new relationship is exciting for me. But gratitude, Monica's 3 C's are communication, clarity, and connection. You communicate for the sake of clarity, to seek clarity about something, to ultimately connect with the person that you love. So Valentine's Day is a great day to start that down that road, and adhering to some of the personal resolutions maybe that you've set for yourself or for your family as a whole. It can be exciting. It doesn't have to be this arduous, Hallmark day. It can be your day to turn over a new leaf. And again, I cannot state this enough. To go over the gratitude list and let go of some of those things that you know you need to let go of, and then engage.
Life's too short to hold grudges.
Amen to that.
And communication is vital, just not only in our relationships in our love life, but generally with friends and business associates, and in life in general. Folks, it's been fun. It's been real. I've loved having you on the show, and I'll have to get you back on when your time permits, so we can discuss more. Monica, where can our viewers catch you?
So you can find me on Twitter at Monica On Air Talk. Monty Matthews on Facebook, MoniMattthews. I am on MonicaMatthews.com. You can sign up for my newsletters. My podcasts are everywhere. You can subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher. Life with Monica Matthews, Life, Love, and Liberty.
Thanks so much for being here. And with Like Monica, you can catch us back over here every Tuesday evening, 8 p.m., fsntalk.tv. You can catch me on Twitter at Andrew G. Poulos, on Facebook and Instagram at Andrew Poulos. Have a blessed evening. Happy Valentine's Day to you this Friday, and we'll see you next week.